again, folks. So this is the Triumph Bonneville T120. We're at Pidcocks in Long Eaton in Nottingham. Pidcocks Triumph. And we're back for a second bite of the cherry, unbelievably. But that does mean I get to ride this beautiful Triumph Bonneville yet again. So I'll tell you about the trials and tribulations that transpired last time. I'm sure most of you already know. But now we're on a whole different system. I just need to make sure the bloody thing's working. I'm absolutely paranoid, beyond paranoid nowadays. See, straight into settings mode, bollocky thing. Video, you stupid sod. Oh, listen to that sound. It just, oozes class, this bike. I bloody love it. So we're going to head off out and do the same again. Pity, I'm looking for the gears here. It's not a DCT gearbox, is it? So we're going to go out, have a bit of a tonk about, and straight away I just feel right at home on this T120. Oh, it's just so sumptuous, the ride, so comfortable, so easy. Road, we're into road mode now. Rain mode is fine, but I just road mode is not aggressive on this bike, so I just prefer road. So this bike then is very similar to the Speed Twin. I keep wanting to say Speed Triple, but it is very similar to the Speed Twin dials wise. Where it differs is the ergonomics of it. The foot pegs are a little bit lower, the handlebars are a little bit higher. The gearing is much longer on this bike. The Speed Twin is really urgent through the gears, so it's a bit of a different ride. This is the high torque engine, whereas the Speed Twin has the high power engine. They're very similar, really. They're not that different. I think the Speed Twin has 96 horsepower. This has got 76 horsepower, somewhere around there. I'll put all the specs on the screen so you can see them. These bikes then, they sort of hark back to the glory days of motorcycling back in the late 50s, early 60s, the mods and rockers scene. So the ton-up boys were trying to get up to 100 miles an hour on a bike. Was like a rite of passage back in the day. So it also harks back to the 59 Club. If you ever wonder where the 59 comes from, on the side of some classic bikes where it's painted on. So the 59 Club was started by John Oates. Oh, river's up a bit. It was started by John Oates in the late 50s, and it was the Reverend Shergold who reached out to the biking community, I think predominantly around the Ace Cafe in North London, and he was terrified. He went twice. The first time he bottled out because he was terrified that he was going to get beaten up by a gang of bikers, and he bottled it. So he went back, had a strong cup of tea, had a word with himself, and then rode back and went into the Ace Cafe and actually started a dialogue with the bikers, who actually took him as one of their own because he was on a bike, and they quite liked what he was saying, liked the idea of this club, thought they'd go along and see what it was all about. And that's where the 59 Club really took off, thanks to the Reverend Shergold. So this T120, the 120 doesn't refer to the engine size, but it refers actually to the fact that this Bonneville was the first Bonneville to break 120 miles an hour on the Bonneville speed flats. It was done by a guy called Johnny Allen, lying flat out across the seat with his legs out the back in a pair of Speedos, or the equivalent Speedos back in the day. So yeah, it all harks back to that sort of an era, and the rockers preferred the twin engine bike. simply because they were faster to accelerate. Look at that, straight up. Speed just goes straight up. We've only just got into 6th gear now. It's just like an overdrive 6 on this bike. And here we are sitting at, what, 75, 76. Revs are about 3,200 RPM. There is just so much power in this bike. It's just the joy to ride. It's a proper lazy man's ride as well. You don't have to go screaming the knackers off it. Very, very civilized and really pretty quick. Remember, change gear down in a second. There is a gear indicator on the dashboard as well, which is really helpful. Just taking it a bit gingerly because these roads are wet and greasy. So there's also traction control and ABS as standard, and we'll go to our usual walk around spot, which is just here, as long as I can still get in, and we can. Right, so that's us. Neutral is really easy to find, the gearbox is really easy. Yeah, that's what I remember from last time. So that side stand, that little bit that sticks out, is not that huge. You would get used to that, but it's not the biggest. There she is then, folks, and this is a 2021 Triumph Bonneville T120. What a cracking looking machine. Think you'll agree? Cracking to look at, cracking to ride. Absolute beauty. Proper modern retro. So let's talk you through the specs then. So this colour, this is blue, no it isn't, this is red and silver ice. This is my favourite colour, I think, the red and silver ice, although the blue and silver ice, I do love those as well. So this paint scheme is an extra 350 quid, as is the blue and silver ice as well. £11,000 on the road price is for just the jet black edition of this bike. So it's a liquid cooled 1200cc parallel twin engine, 78.9 bhp at 6,500 rpm. Speed twin is 98.6 bhp at 7,250 rpm. And this, as you can see there, HT, high torque. So 75.2 pounds, 102 newton meters of torque at 3,500 rpm, compared again to the speed twin 82.7 pound foot, 112 newton meters at 4,250 rpm. Gearbox 6-speed with a gear ring long to suit a lazy, more laid back ride, which I really enjoy on this bike. Service intervals at 10,000 miles. Weight is 236 kilos. So it sounds a lot, but you don't really notice it. The weight is low, but because the seat height is so low as well, 790mm seat height, you don't really notice all that weight. So tank size 14.5 litre, same as the speed twin again. 60 miles per hour claimed miles per gallon, although one of the tests I rode said that they were getting 61, so I would say 60 is pretty accurate, and 190 miles to empty. So Brembo brakes on the front, so twin discs, Brembo brakes. Again, I'll put the specs up for these. Yeah, switch gear is basic, but it's solid and functional. There is a mode button, so there's rain and road mode on this bike. Hazard warning lights, mode button, all the usual. Clocks, lovely, I do like them. These old retro analog clocks with digital inserts. Let's turn them on for you. So that one gives us the rain and road options. I'm leaving it in road mode because it's absolutely fine. So pretty basic, but really, do you want anything more on a bike like this? For me, I would change these mirrors. These aren't my favourites. These aren't my favourite mirrors. I'd have some bar end mirrors put on this to suit the bike. And then the usual Triumph DRL switch, which confuses me. I mean, you'd get used to it if you were using the bike, you know, if you owned the bike. So that's DRL on. I've put it on the back position there. That's headlights on. So that's your DRL there. Pop the headlight on. Headlight as well. Nice and bright. They are halogen though. They are halogen. Nice little Triumph lettering there, look. I mean, the fit and finish on this bike, you know, the false carburetors, everything, it just looks really nice. It's well put together. Triumph, as I keep saying, are knocking the ball out of the park at the moment with the bikes that they're producing, whether they're retros or whether they're brand new models. They just seem to be knocking everything out of the park. The fit and finish is perfect. Look at that tank pad there, just to protect it from your knees when you've got, you know, when it's raining and you've got gravel on your trousers. You're not going to scratch that beautiful paintwork. So there's the welcome addition of a cruise control button on this bike. So it is literally on off with that button. You can turn the cruise control off, but you can't adjust it. But that, I mean, that's really handy. I love cruise control. I use it all the time. And I love these pea shooter style exhausts as well. So the exhausts aren't straight through. They're made to look like straight through exhausts, but if you look down there, you can see the catalyst box just there. Catalytic converter, and both exhausts on both sides go into that box there at the front. And they come out, oh, you can see it better there, look. You can see where it goes into the catalyst box. And then it comes out a little bit further down, just there, and then off to the exhaust. But I think that looks, the way they've done that, it just looks really nice, doesn't it? It does make them look like straight through exhausts, even though they're not. Also make it look like an air-cooled bike when it's not, because there's a nice big radiator there. But again, small, it's not in the way, you know, it's quite well disguised there. Brilliant, well done Triumph. Gaiters on the forks, so they're just standard cartridge forks. These are nothing special. The Speed Twin has got the Marzocchi forks on. So like I say, ride-by-wire throttle with rain and road modes. Doesn't reduce the power, it just alters the engine map for the bike. Traction control and ABS. No 6-axis IMU, don't think you really need it on a bike like this. USB socket under the seat, and that seat height, like I say, 790 millimeters, 79 centimeters. Front forks are 41 millimeter right way up forks with no adjustment on them. You don't need it. Twin rear shocks with preload. If you're going to take a passenger, you can adjust that preload. Nice turning circle on this little thing. I keep saying little thing, compared to mine it does feel small. And these back lanes as well are just, I think, where it belongs. It's just so suited to sort of lazy back lane cruising. Maybe not on horrible winter days like this, but in the summer, just cruising around on these back lanes, absolutely perfect. The exhaust note is nice. It's not invasive. It just sounds nice. Just that low velvety hum in the background. And like I say, with this long gearing on the bike, I mean, I was nearly at 50 miles an hour then before I changed into third gear. It does sound like I'm trying to justify buying this bike, and seriously, I'm trying to find reasons not to buy this bike. So fourth gear, you can just do most of your riding on this bike just in fourth gear. There really is no need to get up to 6 down these back lanes. carries a speed well. There's not a lot in the way of engine braking compared to what I'm used to. I mean, there is engine braking there, but like I say, compared to what I'm used to. But all of the slow speed riding through this village can just be done in third. No need to go up and down the gearbox again. So the clutch is nice and light as well. It is a cable clutch, but it is nice and light. It's not a hard clutch to pull in. The switch gear is well spaced and nice and easy to operate, even in these big thick winter gloves. Crikey, she's a bit bow-legged. She ain't going to stop a pig in an entry, is she, that lass? And these back lanes just so ideally suited to this. I'm really enjoying this. Really enjoying this ride. Even though I've had to come over and do it again, and you missed out on getting this video about 3 weeks ago because of the cock up with my camera. Hopefully this rain is not affecting what I'm doing today. Oh, I'll be so annoyed if something happens and I can't bring this video to you. So I'd like to thank all my new subscribers who've joined me recently, and there's been a considerable amount. Thank you very much for coming on board. If you want to support the channel, if anybody would like to support the channel, I am on Patreon now, and you can find me here. So I will also put that link in the comments box below. If you're watching on your TV at home, could you do me a great favour, and that's pick your phone up right now, go to YouTube and just like and subscribe to my channel, because I am fully aware that anybody watching on TV does not have the option to like and subscribe to channels. So for all YouTubers' sakes, please just do that. Go to your phone, pick up your phone. If you like the video, if you like what you're watching, just give it a like, give it a subscribe, and do that for all the YouTubers, please. There's no point in making these videos if, you know, we're not getting any feedback on what we're doing. We can't get any better at what we do. Comments always welcome, as long as they're not stupid. If you want to criticise the channel, but only constructive criticism. Anything stupid, just don't bother. Thank you. Public service announcement complete. But seriously, it is a bit of a pain in the ass when you go into so much trouble to bring you videos and people can't be bothered to either like, subscribe, comment, or even dislike. If you don't like it, put a thumbs down, but give us some feedback as to what we're doing wrong. What would you like to see differently? So at low speed like this, I'm just in second gear since leaving those lights, and again, nice and lazy. Don't have to be up into third, down into second, down into first, up into third. Don't have to do all that shizzle, because there's just no need. The high torque and the long gearing on the bike, it works perfectly around town. And like I say, it's just so relaxed, it's so comfortable. My arm position, my foot position, my knees aren't scooched up too high, and it is a proper motorcycle experience, is this. So it's Pidcocks, folks, that's making this happen. Pidcocks motorcycles in Nottingham. Look them up if you fancy a test ride. So they do Triumphs, they do zero electric bikes if you're interested in electric. They also do Ducati, and they do BMWs. And I believe there are second-hand bikes in all of those ranges, so if you're not looking for a brand new bike, there's also second-hand bikes. So give them a look up. If you're in Nottingham, in this area, at a loose end, or even if you don't live too far away, then head down there, have a coffee, have a natter with the lads. Because I mean, in the future as well, there's some exciting bikes coming online, as you know, for Triumph. There's a 1200 RR speed triple. I don't want to test that in this sort of weather, but my plan is to get a test ride on one of those. And there's also the new adventure bike, the 1200cc Rally Pro. Easy to filter on these bikes as well because they're not big. Plenty of power, plenty of torque, perfect for around town, really perfect. I find the handling on this bike as well is really, you know, I know I said that it's 236 kilos, but it really doesn't feel it. It turns really easily. This bike is about as close to perfection. You know, power, it's the way it turns, the way the speed comes on, the way the gearing's been set. Everything about it is just about perfect. So what I am going to do up here, I'll test the brakes, just get her up to, getting on for 40, and front brake. Oh yeah, plenty of power on the front brake, really good, and back brake. Yeah, not as much obviously on the back brake, but plenty. I know I'm gushing about it because it is, for me, it just feels like motorcycle perfection. It's just beautiful. It's so comfortable, the ergonomics are brilliant, the switch gear is brilliant, the gearing, I'm still in fourth, chugging along in fourth. I'm going to drop it, I'm going to drop the revs right down in fourth. This will make it shake. I'm going to get down below 30 now, 25 miles an hour, 12,000 revs. Just going to open it up, and it does judder a bit getting it back up there, but it does really well just to bring that speed up, even in, you know, such a high gear at this speed. It's just perfect, absolutely perfect. Such a lazy ride, love it. And this is what makes me think sometimes that I'm still riding a DCT bike because it's so long geared. You know, you just don't realise you're actually doing such a low speed in such a high gear, and the bike's just dealing with it. And it makes you ride a little bit slower. It's like if I was on my Africa Twin, then I just would have overtaken that Astra. Because I'm on this, I can't be bothered. It could easily go past it, but I just can't be bothered. It's a bike that makes you consider riding slowly. I was just having this same conversation back at Pidcocks with John before I took it out, and he said exactly the same thing. It's a bike that makes you respect the Bonneville name, and it just tempts you into just riding at a more sedate speed, because that's sort of what the bike's designed to do. I don't know how Triumph have managed to get that into the bike, but they just have. Because like I say, it's the same engine as the Speed Twin, but you just want to ride it differently. The gearing obviously goes a long way to making you feel like that. One of the things that I would change, well, there's two things that I would change on this. One of them would be these mirrors, because I'm not mad keen on these mirrors. They're a bit stalky and they're a bit too round for my liking. I like the bar end mirrors, so I'd go with those. And I would also take the rear mudguard off and tidy the back end up a bit, because I just think they look a bit sexier without that rear mudguard on. Right, so we're nearly back at Pidcocks now. I'm going to shut up until we get back out on the road on the Speed Twin. But this has been the Triumph T120 1200 high torque engine from Pidcocks, and I love it. Let's get back in and get the Speed Twin. There she is, sitting there waiting for us.